our celebration of all things musical in our hip hop theater boot camp for culturally and socially representative young artists. Today's special event features musician-composers Tanya Aganaba, Robin Lane, and Jaya Story, and will be moderated by Julia Farry. Before we begin, let us take a moment to please acknowledge where we are. Miscellaneous Productions is presenting this event today on the ancestral, traditional, and unceded, that means stolen, territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh peoples. It is an honor to present music, theater, dance, and performance art on their lands and the lands of their ancestors. Their cultures have left a lasting legacy for us to learn from and to cherish. We live and work on unceded, stolen, Coast Salish territory. We endeavor to honor the land and its treaties by strengthening our relationship and responsibility to Coast Salish people and all Indigenous people across Turtle Island. The presence of settlers, non-Indigenous peoples who live on stolen and unceded lands is not neutral. It has had and continues to have devastating impacts on many aspects of life, art, and culture for Indigenous people. Stop the genocide. Settler colonialism has suppressed and harmed Coast Salish people, whether they be land-based or of the sea and sky. We hold this understanding in our interactions and engagements with this land and its people. Those of us who are settlers need to recognize that our knowledge and way of doing things may not be the priority as we work towards equality for everyone in this region. Because we are gathering in a digital space, we would like to encourage and invite everyone to take a moment and reflect upon the land you are on and your relationship to it, and how that looks as you acknowledge your ancestry. We would like to humbly thank and honor the Coast Salish people for stewarding the land we occupy, which has been the territory, sea, land, and sky from which our artistic community has grown. My name is Elaine Carroll. I'm the Artistic Director of Miscellaneous Productions, Director and Producer of this very special Music 101 event. On behalf of our staff, board, and young performers, I would like to thank you for attending this presentation. We would also like to thank our wonderful funders who had incredible amounts of understanding over this period in COVID and have made this event possible. Canada Council for the Arts, BC Creative, Creative BC, BC Arts Council, BC Gaming, City of Vancouver Arts and Culture, Vancouver Foundation, and many generous individuals. We would like to thank and send out our love to our main community partner, the Dance Center. Thanks so much to the exceptionally talented people working behind the scenes, including our volunteer board of directors and absolutely fantastic professional team. Miscellaneous Productions, we believe all youth have a right to the highest quality, comprehensive professional training in the performing arts, regardless of cultural background, income level, or experience. And now, I would like to introduce our community support worker, Alex Denard, who will present our group agreement for the very special event tonight, and our moderator for this evening's very special event, Julia Farry. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine. For tonight, our group agreement is, we ask that all of you participating in today's event respect our anti-harassment policy. We request that attendees refrain from harassment of any sort, including, but not limited to, visuals or images of any kind, language, comments, or questions that are of a racist, homophobic, sexist, sexual, or threatening nature. This includes actions that disrupt or interfere in any way with other attendees or presenters' ability to participate. We do not tolerate harassment of any kind and will immediately disconnect and block any offenders from today's workshop. Thank you so much. We're very excited, and I'd like to introduce Julia Farry, who's going to be moderating today's event.
All right. Hello. Thank you so much, Alex, for the agreement and setting the tone for the community, and to Elaine for that reflective acknowledgement and introduction. Now I have the wonderful pleasure of introducing you all to our lovely panelists. So coming into you live with Zoom, we have Tanya Aganaba, a multidisciplinary artist, musician, and performer who expresses a fluid style, or at least very non-binary, and they weave playful threads of soulful, neo-folk, funk, hip-hop, and R&B. They are a steadfast fixture in their local arts community and are a passionate and political being. Tanya, would you like to elaborate on your journey as a musician?
Hey there. Thank you so much for that glowing introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. My name is Tanya Aganaba, and as you can see, I'm coming at you from the very classy confines of my bedroom, as we all have been for the duration of this COVID-19 pandemic. As was mentioned, my name is Tanya. I use the pronouns they and them. She is okay, but I'm kind of grappling with that a little bit these days, and trying to have some conversations with myself about my level of comfort with she, but that's a conversation for another day. I'm a disabled, queer, and non-binary artist. Like Julia said, I like to dabble in lots of different modalities. So I sing, I play guitar, I write music, I produce music, I do visual art, as you can see behind me here, and I produce a lot of shows and events and stuff like that. One of my, the biggest things about me as an artist is that my journey as a musician changed a lot once I was diagnosed with a disease called multiple sclerosis. So in 2015, my journey as a musician kind of took a big pause because I had to figure out how I could show up in the musical spaces and in the music business while still honoring the things that are going on with my body and my health. So that's something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in the course of these workshops, things that we can do as musicians and artists to take care of our health and make sure that we're showing up in a way that allows us to have longevity. So like a long career, because health comes first. So yeah, my journey as a musician has really been focused around finding ways to build community. One of my favorite things about being a musician, or my career so far, was that I ran a live music venue called Guilt and Company. So through that work, I was able to connect with musicians from all over the city and really all around the world. We played or booked and hosted some incredible shows there. So again, throughout the course of these workshops, you're going to hear a little bit more about concrete ways that you as artists, as people, can build community and find ways to support each other as you learn your craft. I am really lucky to be able to play in lots of different projects, but my own band, which you're going to see a little bit of in a second here, at its biggest has about 15 people in it. So it's a big project. There's a lot of folks, but it's so much fun. And for me, music is really about healing myself and being able to connect with others and spend time with people, being creative. So I think when you see this video, you're going to be able to kind of maybe witness that a little bit, because we have a lot of fun together. We're really in love with each other as musicians, and that really comes out in the energy of the shows that we do. So that's it for me. I'm very excited to talk to you more and to hear from you as this program unfolds. I'm going to pass it over to Katya to play you my video.
This song is called Afroscience. All futures rely on its science, believe me, yeah. I keep checking the sky for the signs that can deceive me, yeah. I keep checking the time, cause it's flying and it's bleeding out, bleeding and learn from it, turn from it, give it the coldest shoulder that it's ever seen. Yeah, I'm about to give up on that pipe dream. Ooh, because complexity ain't all I thought it would be. Swear that this just might be the golden opportunity to become who I ought to be, who I want to be, who I got to be in order to be real free. Oh, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to come back in. I'm ready, I'm ready, to come back in, to come back in. Yeah. I know I'm ready. Said I know I'm ready to come back in, to come back in, back in. Yeah, I'm ready. Well, I'm ready. I'm ready to come back in, to come back in. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm ready. Oh no, I'm ready to come back in. Is it decided that we're divided? Is there a hope in hell? Don't tell me time will tell. I don't got it. This is a future. This is our inheritance. It's evolution. Escaping from that ignorance. A complicated dance, I know. But we're there when you're looking for that soul, soul, soul. The deeper that you go, go, go. The structures will implode, implode, making you whole. Oh, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to come back. Can you feel me? I'm ready, I'm ready, ready, I'm ready to come back. Can you feel me? I'm ready, yeah. When I'm ready to say, can you feel me? I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready, I'm ready to come back in. Oh, is it decided that we're divided? Is there a hope in hell? Don't tell me time will tell. I don't got it.
All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video. And now we are going to introduce the next artist, Robin Lane. He is trained in jazz, Latin, and pop percussion, and Robin has studied rhythm all over the globe. I saw Cuba in there and I was like, ooh. Robin flows in the festival circuit in around BC and is collaborating with a wide spectrum of folk and world artists. Those artists include Kike Escamilla, the Paper Boys, Don Roberts, and Celso Machado, just to name a few. Robin, would you like to tell us more about yourself?
I would absolutely love to. Thank you, Julia. Thanks for the lovely introduction. Always a pleasure to be here in the virtual world and sharing a little bit of the journey. So yeah, it's been kind of a wild ride. Making music a career is certainly not a straightforward path. And you know, there's been plenty of bumps and dips along the way, and also so many incredible moments. So I wouldn't trade the journey for anything. I was one of those kids who didn't necessarily be like, I for sure want to play music, you know? And if I think about it, how I first got into music, I think it was just, I thought, hey, maybe I should play a musical instrument. My older brother was playing a musical instrument. I thought, let's try it out. Started on the drum set, and I just got hooked. I got hooked on rhythm, and then from there, it just continued. So I think, you know, that kind of path, my teacher at the time was studying at UVic, studying classical music, and so he introduced me to the xylophone and marimba, and from there, you know, the journey kind of just continued. So I started as a kind of more a classical musician, I would say, and then I shifted in my teens. I got into salsa dancing, fell in love with the Latin rhythms, and started studying congas. And then that eventually led me to study down in LA at the LA Music Academy, which was both a very uplifting and at times kind of depressing experience because you're surrounded by like the best of the best, and you see where the bar is and you see how far you have to get to get there. And I think overall it was a more inspiring experience. And I think largely thanks to my teachers. One quote from a teacher of mine there, a fellow named Jerry Steinholtz, who's no longer with us. He passed away about 10 years ago. But he taught a whole generation of percussionists in LA. Some of the folks that you probably heard on film, TV, and on lots of soundtracks. And he said, I remember I'd been there for maybe a couple of months or something, and he said, hey man, he was very like kind of just in your face a little bit, but in a good way. He said, hey man, did you just come here to mess around? Or do you want to be a player? Like, do you want to be a musician? Do you want to, that's what I mean by being a player. Do you want to be someone who plays music for a living? And he's like, I think you can do it, but you got to get serious. And so I think that not that I wasn't serious before, but I think that quote, and also his faith in me to say, hey, here's the bar. I think you can get there, but you got to work at it. I think that kind of stuck with me, and it's something. I'm a little more of the soft love than the tough love in my teaching, but but that quote stuck with me. And yeah, so it's that kind of idea, I think. And one of the things that I love about music and rhythm is just that it does bring people together. And the first video I'm going to share with you is very much that. It's a multicultural group that I've been playing with for over a decade. And we all met at a place in Kits called the Chai Gallery, which on Wednesday nights used to have these awesome music jams. And you could just go, they'd have this wonderful buffet, you'd eat all this incredible food, and you'd meet some new musicians, you'd jam with some musicians you already played with. It was a real community hub for the music community, and a group there that did a residency was Tambur Rasa. And Tambur Rasa started by a friend of mine from Serbia who studied flamenco guitar in Spain. And so he's from the Balkans. He also grew up in Turkey. So he brings that to bear on his music and a big love of prog rock into the music. And it's kind of this world fusion mashup. Always a fun time. So let's cue up that video, and then I'll share a couple more stories after. Hey, folks. I hope you enjoyed that. So I just wanted to share another little story or two here with you. In the introduction, Julia mentioned working with Kike Escamilla, and he is an absolute sweetheart to work with. And there's a neat story there. So this is kind of what I love about touring or being a freelance musician, getting to work with all kinds of different artists. A friend of mine played with him out on the East Coast, and when he was coming out west to do the folk fest circuit out here, got in touch with me to sit in with the band and play the festivals. So we had a wonderful time playing folk fests and playing, a lot of the bigger BC folk fests. And then through another band that I've been working with for a long time, Locarno, I'd already been introduced to the marimba tradition that exists in Mexico, specifically in Chiapas. So it turns out Kike is from Chiapas. And then it turns out that when I'm down in Chiapas studying marimba there, about a year or two later, he's there for the first time in 6 years visiting his family. So we met up, he showed me all around Chiapas, took me to his favorite spots. And yeah, just one of those kind of small world, big world of the music scene, which is, you never know who knows someone else, and suddenly you've got a friend from a distant place. So that's one of the things that I love the most about music, and I've been fortunate to get to work with lots of folks from lots of different parts of the world, and even for a little bit ran a festival called the Vancouver World Music Festival that brought people together and celebrated the local community as well as bringing in artists from around the world. So I'll just close with a video of my band. And so part of sort of the journey with marimba is, it's an ancient instrument, but there's lots of room for new traditions within it. So that's what I've been trying to do over the last, couple decades. And it's been an up and down journey. And thanks to my friends, especially when I started this project a number of years ago, who were willing to say, hey, we'll come play with you at Café du Soleil and make very little money because it's a new project. And I'm like, yeah, I can't really afford to pay you because it's a new project, but do you want to play? So, and I think reaching out to your friends is always a good way to get started. And we'll talk more about that later and how to start a band and things like that in later workshops. But let's just close with this video of us playing live at Gilton Co.
much, Robin, for sharing the stories. The performance at Gilton Company. It sounds like the music community is well connected with Tanya starting that Gilton Company and Robin playing at the venue. And so now let's see how we can make these threads continue. But before we go to that, perhaps we can introduce our last, but certainly not least, final panelist, Jaya Story, a performer, educator, and composer. Jaya has worked closely with an array of ensembles and artists, including Standing Waves, Ecstatic Waves. Wait, are you a physicist or a musician? No, I'm just kidding. And the Vancouver Academy of Music Symphony Orchestra. She has performed drum lines that connects games and play percussion and keys for multiple theater productions. Jaya, take it away. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Julia. You always make me laugh. Hi, everybody. I'm so excited to be here with all of you. Thank you all for being here. My name is Jaya Story. My pronouns are she and her. And to describe me in a nutshell, I have an academic background in writing weird groove-oriented contemporary classical music, thanks to 4 years of classical music school. And I love microtonality and psychedelic rock. That's basically me. I'm going to be showing you a few short clips of my work. The first video that I'm going to show you is a section of my most recent ensemble piece, so you can get a sense of what I mean by having a background in weird groove-oriented contemporary classical music. I've put a score up so you can follow along if you'd like. I'll ask Katya to pull up the video now. This is Half Past Yesterday. Take it away, Katya. So that was the thing. Now I don't just write that sort of music, but sometimes it's something that I keep in my back pocket whenever I feel like being a little bit extra. Another thing about me is that I am an officer with the Canadian Armed Forces. My job is that I am a cadet instructor, which means that I work with youth between the ages of 12 and 18. And now the cadet program is something that I'll get into a little later on in this workshop, but I'm going to be sharing with you a clip of talented cadets who came together from across the province, rehearsed for a couple of days, and then toured the province performing amazing concerts. So the story behind the piece is that I didn't write the melody. My boss actually sent me compiled clips of him singing a melody into his phone, and I was tasked with coming up with the harmonies and orchestrating it for a large concert band in about a week's time. So I said, yes, sir, 3 buckets full, sir, and worked my butt off and got it done. It was definitely one of the more interesting arranging jobs that I've done. So with all of that said, here is the next clip called Ceremonial Fanfare, performed by the BC Cadet Honor Band. Take it away, Katya. I would just like to tell you guys a little bit something about me because, as you might have noticed, I have a very Gen Z sense of humor, and sometimes that comes across in my music. So this final clip, if there is one clip left, which I think there is, I hope so, contains a drum and stereo electronics piece that was commissioned by the performing drummer, Chris Laber. It's a 3-movement piece with an environmental theme, and we're just listening to one movement here, don't worry. It's pretty short. And when he told me that it had stereo electronics, let me tell you, my inner Gen Z meme lord came out, and I approached this with the mindset that I wanted it to be reminiscent of a YouTube poop video. So after the piece, there's just going to be an extra tag on at the end, just some examples of some other things that I do. And I think that's the last thing that you guys will see. So right before I pass it on and close this off, I just want to share some words of wisdom. The best piece of advice that I had ever been given is don't write the music that you think you ought to write. Write the music that you want to hear. See you guys more later. Thanks, guys.
Presenting the possibilities of plastics, 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 plastics,
bottle caps, toilet seats,
plastics,
door handles, household goods of all kinds. Bottle caps, toilet seats,
plastics,
door handles, household goods of all kinds. Bottle caps, toilet seats,
plastics,
household goods of all kinds. Bottle caps, toilet seats,
plastics can even help save toddlers from trouble.
the PVC is squeezed. The PVC is squeezed. PVC is squeezed.
Hear that whisper? That's Tupperware's airtight promise to keep foods flavor fresh. This is Tupperware.
Elastic plastic bag. Elastic plastic bag. Elastic plastic bag. Elastic plastic bag. Elastic. Elastic. Elastic plastic bag. Elastic plastic bag. Elastic plastic bag.
So much to Tanya, Robin, and Jaya for doing that short introduction. Wow, what a cool group of musicians that we have gathered on this panel today. It's such an honor to be able to be in conversation with you from before and to this moment now, and for the next couple of workshops to come. So I'm sure that the audience have a lot of questions to ask you all. So what's going to happen next is that we're going to have a 2-minute break. During that time, dear audience, if you want to send your lovely burning questions, or I mean, just questions in general, whichever, into the Facebook chat, just clickety clack. And after, we will come back from the break and we will take some time to answer some of those questions. So see you in 2 minutes. So welcome back, everyone. I hope that you were able to ask some questions or do a stretch or drink some water. We will be starting our Q&A now, and we have some really good questions already. So the first question that I'd like to ask is, or that the audience would like to ask, and I'm just the channel for these questions. What is needed to be serious in the music industry? Let's start with Tanya, if you'd like to speak to this question.
Thank you for this great question. And I think that what's needed to be serious in the music industry is what's needed to be serious or taken seriously at everything. And I think that's about 10,000 hours of dedicated practice. They say that for you to become an expert at anything, it takes 10,000 hours of committed time and effort and energy towards that task. And by the end of that 10,000 hours, you'll be at the very least proficient at the thing that you're trying to do. So for me, I think it really comes down to just like waking up every day and practicing your craft. Maybe not every day, let's be real. I don't practice my craft every single day, but like making a commitment to being an active participant in the thing that you want to do, and focusing at least, a portion of your day every day to making that come true.
So I guess in terms of jazz musicians, it would be "See You in the Shed." Am I right?
Yeah.
Robin, would you like to speak to this question as well?
Yeah, I would love to. I'd absolutely agree with everything that Tanya said. Just putting in the hours, putting in the time is a huge, huge piece of it. And another thing that I always like to think about too is just like in any other job or profession, your professionalism around the job, making sure to show up on time, making sure to have your parts learned before you arrive at rehearsal. The more that you do your homework in advance, then when you get that call and you show up and you're prepared, word gets around, right? And then the next person down the road is like, hey, that person's going to learn their material, so let's get them. And remember that your personality is a huge part of being serious as well, which is like, don't get too serious, because music should be fun. and touring with people who are too serious is not that fun. So that's a few little words there.
Fantastic. And what about Jaya? What would you like to say about this?
Hi. Oh man, I agree with everything that Robin and Tanya said. I don't know what much there is to add. I want to second, especially what Robin said about having yourself prepared before things, because people notice. For example, if you have a band rehearsal and you can have things prepared beforehand, like learn things by ear, have chords written down for yourself, little cheat sheets. You'll never know who else is going to need it. There's always that one person who's going to steal it off of you. Other than that, I believe that the other two basically covered everything. So yeah, thanks.
Awesome. Well, maybe it's not cheating, but more collaboration. Who knows? Well, thank you so much for your beautiful answers and for being so honest with the fact that you got to put in your work. And there's another great question from the audience. What is the best advice you've received as an independent musician? I'll start with Robin on this one. Go ahead.
Wow, that's a big question. What's the best advice? I think, the best advice is really just to be true to yourself, and to also know, like, a lot of the music that I do is not mainstream, and I'm not trying for it to be mainstream. So it's also knowing, like, what is music to you, right? And what is success to you? I think kind of identifying those things as an artist and as a musician will help you on your journey, because there's lots of examples of success around us. And oftentimes there's lots of pressure from family or people who aren't musicians who might have an idea of what success looks like. And I think it's important to know what success looks like to yourself. Because you probably are all successful right now, right? And sometimes you don't know till later. When you look back, you're like, hey, that was pretty cool. So there you go. I guess that's it for me.
Thank you, Robin. I'll send it over to Jaya now.
Thanks, Julia. So I guess I kind of already answered this earlier on, but I guess I'll dive into it a bit more. So it was actually my professor who told me, don't write the music that you think you ought to write the music that you want to hear. And the reason why he said that to me was because, oh man, when you go through contemporary music school or even just music school in general, you know, you usually go in, if it's for composition like it was for me, you usually go in probably not already wanting to write music like Schoenberg or Shostakovich. You're probably wanting to write music like John Williams, right? So you go through a lot of changes in music school. And throughout those changes, you get a lot of people telling you that you should be writing music a certain way. And, you know, it's not all bad because I've actually found that through those 4 years of music school, I've resonated with a lot of the things I've learned, but you have to realize that it's okay if not everything resonates with you. And so that's the biggest takeaway for me. It's still something that helps me even now and something that I'm still working on. So thanks so much for the question.
Wonderful. Those are beautiful answers. Tanya, would you like to take it away from here?
Yes, thank you. I love this question so much. I think the biggest thing, the biggest piece, not biggest, but the best and most powerful piece of advice that I've been given is actually a quote from an artist, also a scholar and activist named Tony Cade Bambara. And I really love the way that they have been able over the course of their long history and history of writing and organizing to kind of cement this idea that art and creativity is always tied to our movements for justice. So when you see people in the streets at protests, they have signs that have art on them, or there are songs that like you tie to a moment in time. Like I think back to 2008, which feels like 100,000 years ago now, but there were lots of protests that were going on at that time. And there were specific songs that really, whenever I hear them, I just remember being in the streets with thousands of people and people just agitating and growing and learning together. So to me, this piece of advice, like I said, is this quote, and it's the role of the artist to make the revolution irresistible. So to me, understanding that like you can put your politics and your beliefs and the way that you want to see the world into your art, and there's nothing wrong with that. And actually, we need artists to do that because it's artists that are able to paint a picture of what the future can be like and how we can evolve as human beings. So to me, that's like a crucial piece of advice that I was given that gave me the confidence to show up as a musician and say, this is what I believe. It doesn't run, in line with the common narrative, and that's okay because I'm a creative and it's my job as a creative, as an artist, to think differently than you. I can't think like you do, otherwise I wouldn't be an artist. I'd just be like a corporate bigwig, right? So if I can, I hope that quote will stick with you and that you will learn a little bit more about Tony, Toni, Cade, Cade, Bambara, Bambara. Check them out, read their work, and be a revolutionary artist.
Wow, that was very inspiring, and it made me think of something that someone told me about music before, where it's time. It's something music decorates time. So it sounds like you're decorating time in the way that you want to. So that's amazing and beautiful. The last question that I'm going to ask is going to be a quick one. It's more of like a logistical question. So for someone who doesn't have access to musical instruments in school, what are the best ways to learn about and access music? Jaya, do you want to go first?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. Oh, yeah, that's a hard situation to be in. There are options depending on where you're at. One of those options that I'll talk a bit more about later is sometimes you have these programs such as the cadet program where they do have these activities like band practice, and sometimes they're in a position where they can actually lend you those instruments for free. If you're in a position to rent instruments, I guess that's also an option. But I'm not too sure about other options, so I'm going to pass this one on to somebody else. Yes.
Yeah, maybe we can ask Tanya about this one. Go ahead.
Hey, thank you for this question. So yeah, like Jaya mentioned, that is a tough situation to be in. If you're in a city like the one that we're in, so-called Vancouver, there are programs that operate inside of schools and outside of schools that you can access to kind of get access to musical instruments. But one of the things that I would recommend is there are lots of free programs and platforms that you can kind of connect with that allow you to use your keyboard, if you have access to a computer, as a keyboard. So you could start learning the basics of music production using a keyboard if you don't have access to instruments, or you could use it to kind of figure out the like music theory and stuff like that. The other thing that I would recommend is there are other programs. I'm thinking of, I can't remember the name of it right now, which is super annoying, but I will make sure that it gets into the resources for you. But there's an organization in Vancouver that is specifically trying to hook up folks with instruments. So I think checking in with the free options that are available are good, and then maybe like reorienting to learn about music through the tech that you have available is good too.
Awesome, thank you, Tanya. And Robin, do you want to add a quick note to that, or?
Sure, I can add a little bit. I think everything's mostly already been covered. I think one other resource just to look at is looking for people in your community who might have access. You know, a lot of music teachers sometimes have extra instruments that they can loan out to you, right? And also, you know, a lot of music teachers are sometimes willing to offer subsidized lessons, or, you know, if you're a really keen student, I know folks who've ended up getting free lessons because they're like, hey, we really like teaching you, we don't care, it's fine, right? So there are some avenues for that as well, just to keep in mind. Yeah.
All right, so that concludes our section of the Q&A. Thank you so much for all of the lovely insight from very like diverse experiences, and yeah, so much inspiration. And so I guess from here, we're going to move on to another section of our workshop, which is about education of music. So as many of you displayed with all of the wisdom that you have dawned upon us, there's a lot of wisdom in music itself, but how do we engage with that? How do we tap into that wisdom? And so it seems like we can do it from a post-secondary institutional track, which sounds like Jaya, you're quite familiar with, but there's all other ways of doing it. So before we dive into each of the musicians' personal experience with music education, I'd like to pass off the mic to Elaine to speak a little bit to the post-secondary track and how that would look like for some musicians out there watching right now.
Hi, folks. I've just done a really bit of quick research. If you are in the Vancouver, BC area, I see here that the Vancouver Public Library loans out some instruments. There's an organization, I'm not sure if it's still around, called Instruments Beyond Borders, that I think is a local, and they also lend out instruments. The Vancouver Academy of Music now has a program where they're lending out instruments. And if you want to come after we're all vaccinated, we're going to be, Miscellaneous Productions will be doing a new show, and Robin Lane will be teaching marimba for that particular project, and we'll be bringing in both Jaya and Tanya also to work with the young people on our next big show. And that is, of course, contingent on when we're all vaccinated, because we work out of the dance center and the studios aren't terribly big there. I just wanted to add a few more things in terms of what our extremely wonderful guests just said. I agree with them wholeheartedly. It's the quality of your practice. You can practice and practice mindlessly. Sometimes that can work, but if you really want it to take, it's been my experience watching young people learn music and new musicians, even if they're older, coming to music. I know many people who started playing music in their 40s and 50s. The quality of the practice is important. Self-discipline. I know it's something that we don't like to talk about, but for music, it is important. You have to not only dedicate yourself to the art of music, you have to dedicate yourself to the craft of music. In terms of post-secondary, I always encourage young people to apply to every school out there that they can think of. And then when you see who's going to shortlist you, who wants your portfolio, who wants your demo reels, then if a few schools accept you in, you can make a decision based on economy. You know, what kind of scholarships are they going to offer you? What kind of bursaries are you going to get? So it's a big decision, and I wouldn't make any decisions quickly. I would really sit down with somebody you trust, if you know a professional musician that you trust, and have them guide you, you know, because there's a lot of questions to ask before post-secondary. I would also encourage people who are in secondary school, high school, if they're looking at careers in music, it kind of is important to do well in school because that can open up a whole bunch of scholarships for you. The higher your marks, the more scholarships are available to you. And that was the way I went to theater school many, many years ago. And I would encourage you to really seek all the possibilities out there for yourselves. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the insight, Elaine, and definitely quality of practice is super important. And if I may just chime in really quick about music, is that if you find a group of friends that really likes music, it will push you forward so far as well. So don't forget to invest into your relationships because those are going to be so important for you in the future. And so from there, we are going to have another 2-minute break, just to like relax a little bit and kind of grab a drink perhaps. But we're going to dabble further into the question of how to engage with the wisdom of music and in what form. How do we educate ourselves so that we can play music the way that we want to? So grab some water, do a dance, maybe strum a chord, and we will be back in 2 minutes. See you all later, or see you all soon. All right, everybody. I would like to invite you all back. For those who got sucked into the fretboard or maybe the keyboard, please come back because we got some juicy topics about education that we're going to discuss. So we're going to have a little bit of a roundtable. So people are going to, from the panel, are just going to have a conversation about education. So how about we start by going around the table to discuss what kind of training or education you acquired over the years and what that experience was like. So I'm going to see, we have everyone here. So I'm just going to go in alphabetical order of last name. So Tanya, would you like to take it away?
Yes, of course. So I'm really lucky that I grew up in a household where my parents were insistent that we took music lessons. So as a little kid, I was able to participate in piano lessons and singing lessons. Then I got to a point in my teenage years where I was like, I want to sing heavy metal. I don't want to be an opera singer. So I quit piano lessons and I quit theory, and I picked up an electric guitar and I joined a band. And my parents were very worried for me, and they thought the devil had gotten a hold of my soul and all of that nonsense. So for me, because I chose to kind of extricate myself from the classical track of training, a lot of the experience that I have is just from connecting with other musicians and learning in community. But some of the tools and and resources that I've been able to access that have helped me along the way are things that are available for free. So for me as a young guitarist, learning how to play guitar, I took advantage of free resources like Fender has an online guitar program that you can participate in, or tools like Chordy or Ultimate Guitar, where you can find all of the sheet music and play along tracks for all the songs that you want to learn. So, taking guitar lessons or taking singing lessons is something that's great if you have access to that. But if you don't, like at the time, nobody wanted to let me take lessons in how to scream. There are certain things that you can find online that will help you. I'm just going to pull up my notes here real quick because I'm going to forget something. So the other thing that I use to help me as an educational tool is finding access to like free programs and DAWs that exist in the world. We'll kind of talk about this a little bit later as we start talking about tech and tools, but there are programs that go along with that you can take for free that will help you to understand like the technical aspects of music. So there's lots of resources. It does take a little bit of creative thinking, but luckily we here at Music 101 have put together a bunch of incredible resources for you. So you'll be able to go through those. I'm going to pass it on to the next person.
So continuing on, thank you so much, Tanya. So continue on in the alphabetical order. Robin, would you like to go?
Sure. Yeah. So as I mentioned earlier in the intro, my background was classical growing up, but also like rock drum set. However, I didn't really end up playing in any bands. So the drum set kind of faded a little bit away because you kind of got to play in bands in order for the drum set to really make a lot of sense. So after classical, I was homeschooled growing up as well. So I had a lot of time to practice. And basically that was, as a teenager, that's all I did. I would practice for hours and hours and hours. And then my teachers kind of left the city around when I was 16 or 17. And I kind of was floating a little bit musically, a little bit like, what do I do next? I wasn't 100% sure that classical was the route I wanted to go. The technique was awesome and served me really, really well over my career, and knowing how to read music and being well versed in that. But I kind of wanted to, I think, get into playing more rhythm section stuff and playing in bands. And so I ended up going to a wonderful conference in Nashville called the Percussive Arts Society Convention, which is this, you get like 4,000 drummers from around the world, and you get these huge expo with like all the coolest equipment, and you get to see just the most inspiring people. Big inspiration for me was a woman, Keiko Abe, who's one of the heroes of marimba in Japan. And she's a very petite, probably, I think she was probably around 60 at the time. She's just a dancer on the instrument. So she's playing a massive 5-octave marimba, just dancing around. And I'd sort of been floating around at that time. Luckily, my parents were supportive and kind of encouraged me to say, hey, why don't you go a little bit further with this? So that's in the end, that's what led me to go to LA, where I was studying like contemporary kind of playing percussion in a pop setting, learning about Latin music, learning about jazz. And then when I came back to Canada, I ended up going to BCC because my old teacher, Dr. Sal Ferreras, was teaching there. And there I connected as well with a wonderful conga player named Jack Duncan, who introduced me to folks in Cuba, where he's been studying for about 25 years. So after I graduated from BCC, I got the chance to go study in Cuba, which was wonderful and a complete sort of like difference from being in music school to suddenly being just studying one-on-one on a rooftop in Santiago, and you're getting this personal experience. And it spoke to me, like I would get stuck in my head sometimes, like I can do that, but I'm kind of a dancer at heart too. So if I get too stuck in my head, it doesn't work. And I always remember, like with singing especially, taking a couple lessons with a strumbero, which is like a folkloric style in Cuba. And he just opened up my voice in a way where I'd sort of felt closed down a little bit in music school, because I was like, I don't know, sight singing, reading notes on a page and singing them. It kind of freaked me out. So So there, so from then I think for me that kind of opened my eyes to, okay, I could continue down the education route, but I was kind of more drawn to just going and studying with folks of different traditions. So I've also been to Guinea and Mali and studied with some wonderful drummers there. Because you get the when you get the cultural like piece that is attached to the music that you're learning a bit of, you understand it so much more, or it's just richer. And so all those things then kind of speak into your own education. And it's neat to learn kind of different ways where it's just more call and response based and more just, I'm playing it, now you play it, right? And so in my own teaching, that's what I do a lot of, because a lot of the students that I work with don't have instruments at home to practice. So we learn a lot more just by rote, and then eventually maybe add in reading music. Yeah. Is that the question? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, definitely. That was beautifully in depth. Jaya, would you like to speak to this as well?
Absolutely. Thank you so much. So I was having flashbacks while listening to Robin explaining his background, because we actually have a lot in common. He was homeschooled, I was homeschooled. He's a percussionist, I'm a percussionist. He had a lot of scary times with oral skills, so did I. That stuff is horrifying. But so I'm going to actually talk about two things. So this is going to be a little longer. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the cadet program, and I'm going to go into music and education as a post-secondary thing a little bit after that. So I've been talking about the cadet program a lot. I've made you listen to cadets playing my music. What is the cadet program? Okay, let me tell you. The cadet program is a free program for youths between the ages of 12 and 18. It is, it's not a military thing where you have to be in the military, but it does have military ideals. The officers are in the military so that we have strict guidelines on how to ensure the well-being of the cadets. So we are very passionate about the youth in the program. And it's really cool because they have weekly band practices, most units. Instruments can usually be provided for you. It's a military style band, so concert band instruments only. Sorry, piano players, but I was a piano player and now I'm a percussionist. Thanks, cadets. You don't need any experience on the instruments. You can literally start out with no knowledge on a brand new instrument, and it's quite possible that in 5 years' time, you could be using the pieces that you learned through the program to get you through your college recital, audition, if you decide to do that. That's actually what I did. I had no idea how to play percussion. I got to the highest level of music in cadets, and I used that piece for my college audition, which landed me a full scholarship. I was so fortunate, but the cadet program is so useful. They also have 3-week or 6-week longs music summer courses available where you actually get paid to learn music. You get paid $60 a week for 3 weeks or 6 weeks to learn music, right? With professional instructors every day. They teach you oral skills, they teach you music theory, musicianship, everything. Highly recommend it. There's also leadership opportunities. If you're interested in this at all, just Google Canadian Cadet Program and you will have all the info you need on the official government website. Boom. That's my little segue into music education. So now that, okay, we've talked about what you can do before you turn 18 or 19 or whatever and graduate, and now you have to decide, do I want to do college or university? And it's not for everybody, but I will tell you my experience and my pros and how it benefited me and what it looks like. And then I'm going to give you a hot take. So structured curriculum works well for a lot of people. It worked for me. And that's why I would recommend music school for those people who need that direction and the pressure of constant deadlines. Some other pros are that you get to network with students who are in the exact same space as you are in, and you are all together and you're in this little cohort for years and years. And some of those people who you will meet if you go to music school, you will most likely work with them for the rest of your lives. Not all of them. Some of them are a little weird. Music students are really weird, but like you're all pretty weird. I'm weird. And I have my three groups of friends, or sorry, not three, my group of 3 friends. And we're all weird people, but we've known each other all throughout music school and we support each other in all our projects. So that's one really great thing about music school. Some things that you learn in music school. Ooh, okay. Ooh. Music school will become your life. You will have no life. Just putting that out there. Your classes are going to be oral skills, music theory, music history, ensemble, career development, conducting, orchestration, private lessons, and so much more. I'm not even counting the electives that you have to take to get a music degree that are not music courses. I have had to do so many science and psychology courses and English courses just to get that expensive piece of paper. So if that's something that you're not interested in, then do consider that. Here is a hot take. You do not need to go to a big school if you want to go to music school. You do not need to go to UBC or even UBC. You can go to a tiny college and it might actually benefit you, because in a tiny college, I went to a tiny college. I went to Douglas College, shout out. And it's a smaller music program. And I would argue that it is probably the best music program for teaching oral skills and music theory and having those actual practical skills. And every time that I've talked to music students from other institutions, they have told me that they have not had as much of an intense education in terms of the level that the smaller colleges require you to be at. And sometimes that's because, and now I'm not a professor, I'm not involved in the administration of these things, so I can't exactly say, but let's just say that I've heard that because some smaller colleges are university transfer, which means you do 2 years there and then 2 years at a university that does offer the full Bachelor of Music program, such as UBC or Vancouver Academy of Music, where I went. Sometimes in order to make a bigger impression, you need to have a higher level of skill. So that's one reason why I've heard that it's a little more intense in smaller institutions. And it's also great because you get a lot more one-on-one with the professors. You get to really know them. I'm still really close with my professors because I've had that small community. You might not get that at UBC, but again, I'm not a UBC alumni. So I'm mentioning UBC because that's where I am locally, but wherever you are, it could be UVic or any big university. I'm not saying it's a bad option. I know so many people who have gone to big universities and have benefited from it greatly, but cost is always an issue for a lot of people. And so I just wanted to put this out there. If going to a big name university is something that you think you have to do because otherwise you're not going to get anywhere, that's totally wrong. Absolutely. So whatever you decide to do, make sure it works for you financially, because it is hard. You're going to have to deal with this for the next 4 years. Apply for all of the scholarships. Sometimes you'll have better luck with the smaller colleges as well. So that's another pro. But if you decide that you want that university life, I'm all for it. Totally. As long as you know your reasons, that's ultimately the way to go. So just make sure you think about it long and hard, do your research, ask around, make sure you know the programs, because they are different, let me tell you. So that's my answer to that question. Very long-winded, I know, but hope that it helped out some people. Thanks.
Thank you so much. That was fantastic. You laid it out very honestly, and we even got like a secret inside scoop and everything. So that was really great. I guess, yeah, if I could lean a little bit more on the topic that everyone seemed to touch up on about kind of learning in different like group settings. I guess, well, one thing that maybe is secretly like for me is that like support. It sounds like a lot of you got support from your parents, but where were the other places that you got support, and what was that experience like? Because I feel like maybe this might be something that would help with education as well. What do you all think? You can chime in whenever, whoever wants to go first.
I'll chime in on that one. I feel that I was also very fortunate to have a lot of teachers who were very supportive. And I think that that's really important when you choose a teacher, to feel that they see you, and that they are wanting to kind of nurture you on your journey. And that doesn't mean that they're holding your hand the whole way, especially at a post-secondary level, but that they do see that you can do this, you know. And certainly in the work I do, I just mentioned, if you're not in post-secondary and you're in Vancouver, there are a couple of other schools to check out, which is the Sarah McLachlan School of Music, where I've been working for, I don't know, almost 15 years now, something like that. And we have music program for most disciplines. We don't have strings, and we don't have horns and brass, woodwinds. But yeah, so that's something. Then the community there is definitely a very inclusive community. We work really hard to try to be as inclusive as we can, and make it a safe space. One of the neat things teaching there as well is you can stay from grade 4 to grade 12. So if you get in young, I've had students who've been there for 8 years, and now we've even had a few alumni come back and are teaching at the school, which is really, really neat to see. So more on my own side, I think I've always sought out friends, and like Jaya said, it's like, even if you can have a handful of friends, whether you've met them at music school or whether you've just met them in your community or people into music, just, you know, and try to support each other on that journey, right? Because there are some tough times. There are some tough times. And if you are more, I just put a little shout out as well to the St. James Music Academy in Vancouver as well, which has a free music program for young people. I think it goes up to 18. It might go beyond that, but I think it's mostly if you're in high school and high school and elementary school. And and they do strings, and they do all the woodwinds and a little more classical geared. So that's another one to check out. Anyway, I've talked for a long time. I'll move
on. It seems like there's a couple of people that know about the St. James. How do you apply, or how do people access also the Sarah McLachlan School?
Sure. Yeah. So I can't speak exactly to how you apply to St. James, but maybe someone else can. With the Sarah McLachlan School, it's online, and you apply. There's just a form that has to be filled out, and then you get put on a wait list. And eventually, when spots open up, you get brought in for a class, or for like an intro class. We also do summer camps where new people are brought in for the entire summer camp. So that's a great way to kind of get an introduction. So keep an eye out for that. We have been able to operate some distant classes during COVID, but our numbers are way smaller. So hopefully once everyone's vaccinated, those numbers will grow a little bit more as well. So yeah, maybe someone wants to speak to St. James applying there. I'm not quite sure.
Hi, folks. I can speak a little bit. I'm not an expert in the St. James Music Academy, but I'm a huge fan. They generally take youth as young as 6 and up to 15 years old, because then I swoop down and try to grab their best and brightest for my program. So that's why I know about it. But they're a fantastic group. They're just the greatest group. They're based in the downtown east side, and they tend to serve that geographic community. The Sarah McLachlan Music Outreach only serves the Mount Pleasant area. That's the thing about these smaller independent music schools that offer free classes and instruments to youth, they tend to be more community based. There's nothing wrong with that. There's a music school in Langley, if you live in Langley, that you can get free education when you're a younger person. So that's what I've got to say about the free music program. There are others. There's always music programs in schools. Some are better than others, but if you're super interested in music, you can work the system to get into the school with the best band. You know, I would really do. I've seen quite a few of our youth do that, switch high schools. Van Tech used to have a great music teacher. Unfortunately, he's been promoted up the ranks, a guy named Mark. But when he was there, we had like 10 students at that school because that guy was so great. He was such a great teacher, and he was a community-minded person. So these are all great opportunities. You can research them in your own communities across Canada and internationally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for that insight. Also, Tanya, did you want to say something? Because I saw you cheering the St. James.
I was just going to say, I love St. James Academy, or St. James Music Academy. I've had the pleasure of collaborating with them in the past, and still to this day keep in contact with some of the young people that I was working with there. And like Elaine said, the importance of having a program like that in that neighborhood is like astronomical. And if any of you are located in Vancouver and specifically in the downtown east side, highly recommend that you go and check it out. And the other thing that I wanted to just circle back to, as we're talking about different ways of learning and different ways of finding, getting your musical education from the community. One of the biggest ways that I learned and grew as an artist is by going to open mics. Now, there's lots of those. If you're an older, over 19 person, you can find open mics all the time. But there are open mics that happen in coffee shops and in, I know Trees. I don't know if Trees survived the pandemic, but there's a place in downtown Vancouver that's a cheesecake restaurant that has open mics all the time. So if you are wanting to like practice your craft or learn from other people, get ideas, open mics are a great way. Also, as a musician, as a singer, because singers have a hard time because you can't do that by yourself, really. Karaoke is a great place to get your chops, get your flex on, figure out what you can do, and find out what kind of genre really suits your voice. That's where I'm not gonna front. People think that I did a whole crazy thing to become a musician. No, I did a lot of karaoke, and I figured out where my voice fits in.
Oh, wow. Now that's an education, karaoke education. That is amazing. In terms of like learning in the community, then I have a question for you all, because we've been speaking a lot to kind of the youth that are coming into the music scene, but what about the emerging artists? Like, what roles could they take, not only to educate themselves, but maybe to educate everyone together? I don't know, maybe this is just me like showing my like community vibes, but if anyone wants to speak to that, that would be fantastic.
I think keeping your eyes peeled for opportunities within the music scene. I know Music BC has been doing a lot of showcases for emerging artists, specifically geared to emerging artists. And there's quite a bit of funding, which we'll talk more a little bit about in a later workshop of how to get grants. But there's quite a lot of funding that you can get, especially if you're under a certain age, for emerging artists and for artist development, and for just kind of if you're just starting on your journey. And then, yeah, I think so. Music BC is doing things like that. I know. Real Youth, they might have just closed their applications, but they have applications right now for during COVID. Even if you have an original song, you can apply to do a music video, and they'll kind of help you through that process. Yeah.
Cool. Are there any good spots to look for these grants? Like, is there a website or a compilation? Tanya?
I see Elaine just wants to slide in, but before you do, Elaine, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, let me just make sure that I don't get it wrong. There's a website called littledog.ca. And if you go to littledog.ca, you can find every grant across the entire nation for every discipline of every art form that there is. It's updated on a daily basis, and you can go in there and just check, put in like what kind of grant you want, whether that's travel grant or something to fund your record, or you want to make a comic book or whatever. And they are all kept on that website. So highly recommend littledog.ca.
That's a great place to go. And that website is run by a fundraiser named Marianne Anderson. She writes a lot of grants for a lot of groups in the city, including music groups. Generally speaking, when we talk about emerging artists, and it changes from year to year, but generally speaking, for BC funding, it is age-based very often, and often it's between 24 and 29. So you can be up to age 24 for some grants and up to age 29 for some BC Arts Council grants for emerging artists specifically. If you go to the Canada Council for the Arts, that's canadacouncil.ca. It's a bit of a maze, and you should really take time to go through a very complex website. These are national competitions, but I've seen them fund emerging artists up to age 33, 34. So it's different. Sometimes you will get an artist who's made a career, let's say in theater, and then when they're in their 40s, they decide they want to focus on music. They would be technically considered an emerging artist, but again, a lot of the grants for emerging artists are age-based, so it's a little bit more difficult when you're going from discipline to discipline. I've done it myself, and it's a bit of a challenging journey, but worth it. It's worth it. Take the time. Writing grants is all about being strategic. Write from the head, not from the heart. That's my advice. Thank you.
Okay, that's a very good advice, because you can get quite personal with the artsy applications. So thank you for that advice. Now we have about 5 minutes left for this roundtable, so you're welcome to choose, but I do have one possible question, a topic that you could possibly touch up on, but if there's anything that you'd like to speak to, please do. So my question, oh yes, Tanya.
Sorry, if I could just for a second, on that note that Elaine was mentioning about writing grants, I know that the city of Vancouver, I'm sorry to those of you who are not located on these particular unceded stolen territories, but if you were in the city of Vancouver, they have put together, they're providing a program to people that are applying for grants. So if you're somebody that has a disability, or you're neurodivergent, or you need some kind of help or assistance, I would recommend if you go to the page and you look at the grant application and you're like, there's no way, reach out to them and ask if they have any supports for folks that have disabilities or are neurodivergent or have ADHD or whatever. They might be able to provide you with either actual assistance to fill out the grant, or provide you with the finances to pay someone to apply for the grant for you.
Wow, thank you for that tidbit. So back to my question. So I guess in terms of like resources for learning, what is your opinion between like YouTube, books, and mentors as education resources?
Can I say all of the above? Everything that's available, you should access. I don't think that there's any one that's better than the other. The only thing I will say about YouTube is just be careful, because that can send you down a spiral into some other weird stuff. So just like check your YouTube settings. But yeah, I think as taking in as much, taking education or knowledge from as many different formats as possible, whether that's webinars or going to in-person classes, videos, podcasts, take as much as you can get from as many. And also the other thing is like some people are really comfortable learning from books, and some people are really comfortable learning alone. And not everybody needs the same thing. So it behooves us all as human beings to try a little bit of everything so that we can figure out what our learning style is and what type of instruction works best for us.
Thank you for that. Jaya?
Thanks, Julia. I totally agree with Tanya. I'm going to choose all of them. I've done all of them. The one thing I will say, though, is that if possible, I would suggest having a mentor occasionally to check up on your technique, at least at the beginning, because it's very important that while you're developing your skills, that you're building the right muscles, you're not damaging yourself. Because if you're building yourself up the wrong way down the line, it's going to be a lot harder to unlearn those bad techniques, which is something that I'm still doing today from not getting the right instruction when I needed it. But that's all I have to say for that. Robin, do you have anything to add?
I don't know. I think you all pretty much covered it. I think they all serve different purpose for different things and for different people, like you said, Tanya. I kind of grew up before the YouTube generation, but I have lots of students who've used YouTube to learn tons of things. And recently, I learned YouTube to learn how to swim properly. Right. So, you can learn things from YouTube, even if you're older. No. So, but try things out, see what works for you and your learning style. Because I think that's really key. Like, I know I learn best from other people. So for me, I know that's really key to have at least every now and again. But there's resources everywhere. And then another big thing that I always say to young people is like, listen to music. Just listen to music. It's out there, and dig deeper. Don't just listen to the music that's right in front of you. Try to find other music. Try to find music that's like not in your friend group. Try to, check it all out. Yeah. That's it for me.
Thank you, Robin. And this is a moment I would say, so what is your opinion on Spotify? But we only have about 2 minutes left. So we only have 1 minute left. So I guess that will be for maybe another workshop. But thank you so much for the very insightful answers and the discussion. I'm sure the audience has a lot of burning questions now because of the in-depth discussion that we had. So what's going to happen now is that we're going to have our final 2-minute break before our long Q&A. So for our dear audience, if you could take this 2-minute session to put your questions in the chat. We might not get to all of them, but we'll do our best to address them with breadth and depth. My rhymes, maybe. That's as far as I can go. So on that note, see you in 2 minutes. Thank you so much I guess I'd just like to invite everyone back. Actually, that's what I would like to do. I hope you're able to grab a drink of water, go to the bathroom. So now we will be starting our Q&A. Thank you so much for sending in some amazing questions. So I am going to start with this one. What's one thing you wish people, or one thing that you wish you knew about starting in the music industry? I will start with Tanya for this one.
Great question. I wish that I had known starting out in the music industry that it's supposed to go slow. That it's not a sprint. I wish that someone had sat me down and said, yeah, Britney Spears got famous at age 16, but her family had her working as a Disney child since the age of 3 or 4. There's no such thing as an overnight success. It takes years and years of dedication to your craft in order to blow up overnight. And I really wish somebody had sat me down and explained that to me, because it would have helped me have healthier expectations about my timeline and also what success actually means. Many of the artists and creatives that I love and respect the most, you won't see them on a top 10 chart. You'll never catch them playing in a stadium. You won't see them, on Saturday Night Live doing their musical performance. But these are still artists that have managed to carve out a niche for themselves and carve out a life that is quote unquote successful, because they understood that it's almost, I shouldn't say it's more important, but it's important to approach this industry or this craft from a place of being realistic. And I will say wholeheartedly that when I got into this business, I was very unrealistic, partly because the people around me that I love had a very narrow idea of what success looks like. For example, in my family, I come from a very traditional Nigerian and Zimbabwean family. And so for them, to me, to go into music as a profession was like, oh, you can't do that. You got to be a doctor, a lawyer, an engineer. But once they finally came to terms with the fact, like, this is not a fad or a trend, or I'm not going to grow out of it, they were like, oh, so why don't you be like Beyonce? Or why don't you pursue a career like Whitney Houston? Or why don't you pursue a career like, I'm trying to think of another famous Black person. I don't know, Mariah Carey. I know you didn't know they were Black, but they are. Surprise. But yeah, so when going into it, I had a really kind of distorted idea of like what my trajectory should or could be. And I really wish someone had sat me down and said, it takes 10,000 hours to be worth a fig. So focus on your craft, focus on who you are and what you're trying to say. Don't worry about measuring yourself against the yardstick of like what that guy's doing or what that guy's doing. Yeah, thank you for the question.
Thank you so much. It sounds like one of the answers to the questions we had before, which was stay true to yourself, which, yeah, that's so beautiful. Thank you, Tanya. Robin, would you like to go next for this question?
There we go. Okay. Hi. I relate to that so much, Tanya, and to the unrealistic expectations we have when we're like 19 or 20 sometimes. I thought I'm going to be a studio musician for sure. It's like, well, first of all, there's not that many of them. I remember being in LA and getting told there's 5 percussionists who do 95% of the work. So you're like, okay, do you climb to the top of that ladder? Or, do you realize that you can have a very enjoyable and successful career doing a whole different range of things? And I think one thing that I kind of wish I'd known before was, and sort of a piece of advice I'd pass on is like, if you're comfortable being a little bit broke in your 20s, there's a chance you might be less broke in your 30s. So it's kind of like, do it because you love it. Do it because it fills you up it fills your soul. And then you'll be able to ride out those hard times a little bit easier. I think I'm probably not alone to say that there's been many times where even after maybe a bit of a success, you can feel that like, is this actually going to work in the long run? Like, what's going to happen in like 5 years, And like Tanya said, the 10,000 hours, it's just the more you do it, it's the long game. It's a long game. And you just keep doing it. And the longer you do it, that's success right there. You're still doing it. You're still making art. Yeah.
Thanks, Robin. Jaya, would you like to go?
Wow. Those were such beautiful answers, and I don't know what to say. Gosh. Well, I want to touch on a little bit what both of them were saying. I resonate completely with everything that everyone said. Oh man, it touches me because it's something that we all go through. You are going to face a lot of discouragement. You are probably going to want to quit by maybe the third or fourth or fifth year into being a professional musician, maybe even before that. I've only just gotten out of music school and I've wanted to quit so many times, but you have to figure out why you're doing it. Would you be happy doing anything else? And you, man, it's I'm trying to say tough and then hard. It's a hard topic to talk about because a lot of it is very personal, the kind of discouragement that you're going to face. And we're going to talk about it more in, I think, our last workshop, because these are some really deep topics. I've had a lot of people say some really nasty things to me for really nasty reasons. And I think, we all go through that in one way or another, sometimes more than other cultures, or depends. Like, I'm not going to talk about it now. That's not part of this. That's a different workshop. So what I wish that I knew was how hard it was going to be, and that you're going to get through it. It's going to be okay because you love doing it and you're doing this for a reason, because you're good at what you do. And if you can, find people to look up to. Like right now, I'm looking up to Tanya and Robin because they've been in this way longer than me, and they're here and they're saying amazing things. So that's what I have to say. Thank you for that amazing, really important question.
They're such beautiful answers. Thank you. It's just so inspiring to hear all of your reflections on your journeys. This is a little bit of a turn in terms of questions, but kind of related. How important is touring for your career, and how difficult does it become difficult being away from home and family? Yeah, I don't know if that's something. And also, I guess in COVID times, how does that all play out? Maybe just to add to that. Let's begin with Robert.
Hi. I'm just going to get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, touring. I mean, I think touring is very important. If one, if you like doing it, and two, if the music that you're doing can work in lots of different settings and in lots of different venues. I think that there's plenty of cases where ensembles or artists choose not to tour that much. And especially now in the digital age, I think it's less necessary. You can definitely make a career without touring. I think within sort of the work that I've done, touring with bands is kind of the way that we build our fan bases, and building up new markets comes through playing at festivals and having other presenters see you and maybe book you for their series next year. Like, it's all a very long game too. Like, I know when I first started touring, I thought, oh, we got booked for a festival, cool. Like, it's so exciting. And you're like, wow, this is gonna be great. And it is great, but then you realize the way a lot of these circuits work is like 2 years out, 1 or 2 years out, they're planning. So it can be hard sometimes, especially to get onto the circuits that are like better funded or have, so at the beginning, you can definitely do let's just go across Canada, but I don't know if that's the smartest thing in this day and age anymore, right? I think that's it's a lot of gas. It's not great for the environment. You could just stream. I mean, a lot of people are doing that. I haven't been doing much because I became a dad during COVID. So I've actually been enjoying the family time. And I think it will be interesting to tour whenever that happens again, to tour being a dad. And that'll look a little different. I think I'll probably be on the road a little bit less, or be on the road with the family. We've got a camper van, so that makes life a little easier. Yeah, yeah, that's me. I think those are my thoughts for now.
Thank you for that. Oh, and congrats on the baby. Jai, would you like to speak to this?
Sure, thanks, Julia. Oh man. So I actually don't have too much to say about this because I have not really toured outside of the province of BC. So what I will say though is that I have heard some advice when I was in trying to study conducting because I went through a conducting phase. And one of the things that my teacher said to me was that if you want to become a mom or have a family or settle down, you have to really take that into consideration because you are going to do a lot of traveling. And granted, this was for conducting, but I assume that it also pertains to other things. And yep, that is all my everything. Thank you.
Thank you for the advice. Tanya.
Yes. Okay, so a huge part of my life is built around touring. It's been extremely interesting over the course of COVID-19 to think about what this is going to look like when things reopen and when it's safe for us to gather as well. But it's also been, for me, it's been challenging me to think about how necessary, like Robin said, it is to actually engage in the touring aspect of music. It's great if you are well funded, if there's, you know, your transportation is taken care of, if you have a good place to stay and stuff like that. But like I'm going to be real. In your early days as a touring musician, it is not pleasant. And you are not making money. I will tell you that right now. You are sleeping on floors. I can't tell you the amount of times that especially when you think about COVID-19 and how we're like not going into people's houses and like hanging out with people. The things that I've done as a touring musician, I would never do today, knowing the things that I know about COVID-19. So in some ways, I think that if you're at a certain point, if you are lucky enough to have an agent that has connections to great rooms, great festivals, and things like that, touring can be great. But in your early days as an artist, I would recommend actually, like, again, like we keep saying, work on the craft, work on your chops, play lots in your community, build up your reputation where you're at, and then, you know, start establishing relationships. As Robin said, the festival scene and the touring scene, really it's about like reaching out to venues, establishing relationships, letting them know what you're doing. And then maybe a year from now or 2 years from now, when they're doing their next festival season, you'll be able to get onto it. But I think that in a lot of ways, COVID-19 has exposed so many inequities within our system, but also exposed so many ways that we've assumed doing things that they can be rethought. Like, do we have to pile into a vehicle with a bunch of people all breathing the same air, pumping gas into our cars, driving into the middle of nowhere, potentially spreading around COVID-19? Or can we think about new and creative ways to engage our own communities around music and art and focus on building the culture where we're at? And then people elsewhere are going to hear about what you're doing. So I'm having a lot of questions myself about the role of touring in my own career and how important it is and how I'm going to move through this experience and come to the other side. So basically what I can tell you is, I don't know. I haven't figured it out.
Was that an answer or a question? But there is such a good insight, and honestly, like, if anything, this is a great time for reflection. So thank you so much for the insight. So we're coming up to the last little bit of our Q&A. So maybe in the next 5 minutes, maybe we can answer one more question. And so it will be like a hop between everybody. So I'm just gonna set the order right now. It'll be Jaya, then Tanya, and then Robin. But do you think you need a social media manager?
Well, I'm thinking about for me personally, because man, I suck at social media. I think it depends on how good you are at social media. And it's something that we're going to talk about in another workshop by somebody who I hear is a fantastic, amazing social media person. So make sure you stay tuned for that workshop. Um, but I don't actually have a lot to say about this because I don't do my social media that much, but I believe it's an important thing to do. And it's something that I'm actually still working on a little bit for myself. The mediums that I use are a little bit different in terms of what I feel resonates with me and where I'm going. However, there are some parts of, do I want to have a Facebook page? Do I want to have an Instagram? It all comes down to what you can manage, really. And if you can do it yourself, great. If not, then whatever, get a manager. That's what I think.
Wow. Okay. So I know that I'm a bit of a hater when it comes to social media. I don't like it. I think we should all be doing everything in our power possible to like extricate ourselves from that relationship as much as possible. But if you believe that it's a thing that you want for yourself, I actually recommend using some tools like Buffer, or I was going to say Hootsuite, but don't actually use Hootsuite. Something like Buffer allows you to schedule your social media posts. So if you are an organized person, unlike myself, you can create yourself a schedule for posting that's based on the times that people in your network are the most active. And you can like set up all the posts that you want. So if say you have 3 or 4 shows coming up, you can put all the posts in there and then it can populate your social media feeds for you. So the reason I recommend something like that is because it allows you to kind of extricate yourself from that all day, everyday relationship with social media and just like put it out there and walk away and continue your life. That being said, it is important, obviously, to engage with people when they engage with you on social media. So if that's something that you feel is too much for you, like as a neurodivergent person, I have problems with social media sometimes. It could be really useful for you to get a social media manager, but not at the beginning of your career. This is more towards the like, I have 50,000 to 100,000 followers. Then I would recommend doing something like that.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree with Tanya there for sure. I don't think you would need a manager at the beginning of your career. I think that's something you can manage yourself. I also have been having a little bit of a distant relationship with social media over COVID. I think partly through becoming a dad and just realizing I'm like, my time is very limited. So I want to make sure I'm using it wisely. At the same token, I think there's definitely been times where it has been helpful to my career, but I'm kind of questioning that a little bit. I'm like, everyone's just posting on social media. And I think it's sort of back to the like 10,000 hours piece. I think it's like, there is a danger sometimes in social media to go for popularity over just doing your art and getting really good at your craft. And we can sometimes spend a lot of hours, I've been guilty of it myself, trying to write that perfect post. And you're like, I could have been practicing for half an hour, right? So just trying to be conscious of like how much time or how you're weighting your time within your values of that. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for that insight. I guess that kind of draw of being in the sea of spectacle, or to actually be in the place that you are at that moment in time. So that's pretty cool. I don't know. Thank you so much for that advice. And I think Elaine would like to speak to this a little bit as well.
Well, in terms of any kind of publicity that you're doing for any kind of artistic career, yes, I would do it myself in the early stages of my career, and I would not get consumed by it. I would find the tools like Buffer to help you out. I just want to address a few other things. I'm somebody who loves touring and have always loved touring. And I've stayed in some pretty strange and wonderful places, but it's helped me grow as a human, and it's made my artistic work better. There's nothing like a great mentor. If you find a mentor out there that you can trust and that you love and that you're learning from, that's your person. Go to them. And then in terms of travel, because of a lot of things that have happened across the entertainment industry, there are more mom-friendly options for touring. There's something where we go in and out, like we keep going home after each city. You know, we keep going back so that we're not afraid from, we're not away from our children too much, or from any people we're mentoring or taking care of, or the elders that we care for. So, music is an incredible career. It's an incredible life. I've met some incredible musicians. One guy that we worked with some years ago, Ganesh Nandan, who's got a big career in Berlin right now. He trained in Eastern, Western, and Indigenous classical music. And he's become quite a world expert, and he can play hundreds of instruments. I think the more you know, the more work you'll get. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine, for those last words. And that wraps up our first workshop, Music 101. Thank you so much to Tanya, Robin, and Jaya for the honest, very raw, and also insightful and beautiful, heartfelt discussion. Knowing that there's such wonderful folks, passionate folks in the music industry, it's so encouraging to think about how it's possible to take on those challenges that might be awaiting those folks going into the music industry. And so finally, I'd like to thank the audience so much for making those mind-opening questions. I feel like I learned so much from your curiosity, so thank you so much. If you liked what you see, Miscellaneous Production has much more planned for you. In fact, we have a full digital season of arts programming, mostly geared to youth and emerging artists, but they are all free and for everybody. So most of them will now be held on Zoom, which means that they will require registration. So check out our website or our Facebook page. So what are the contents of these next workshops coming up? We have 3 more of the Music 101 workshops that will have the lovely musicians that you met tonight. Some topics we will be covering include gaining experience, promotion, distribution, what's an EPK, as well as health and well-being, staying grounded in the music industry. And for all you filmmakers out there or people who love film, we're also hosting an online workshop called Film for Beginners with Anne-Marie Fleming. So if you have those ideas in your head, maybe this workshop is the stepping stone for those ideas to go onto the screen. We also have launched a fabulous new program for youth from age 9 and older called Distance Hats. And it's another series of fun-filled free workshops conducted as part of the creation of our next program, which is going to be a work of theater called Plague, which we will launch in 2022 to 2023. So if you would like to join, you could also sign up on our webpage. And also one last thing that you might want to check out is that there is going to be a music video that we are releasing, which was choreographed by Natasha Gori and produced in collaboration with Magnifier Media. It's entitled No Superman, and 9 representative dancers have collaborated with Natasha and director Elaine Carroll that you saw today to explore mental health concerns for young people during the pandemic in a new 3-minute dance video. So the music is by Natasha Fecko, a musician who worked in collaboration with Miscellaneous Productions for a song that was featured in a theatrical production called Away with Home. So there was a lot of information. So if you missed anything of the workshop names, you can always visit our Facebook page, our website at www.miscellaneousproductions.ca. And that, my friends, concludes our event. Thank you, musicians, the Miscellaneous Production team, and the fantastic tech team in the back, and to you, lovely audience. Good night.